Hey everybody, it's June 3rd, 2026, and they let me take over the mastermind for a day.
Oh
Don,
yeah.
Don Fiala is out on vacation, and our lives are a little crazy here without her, but
Yes.
we're going to
Yes,
power through
sir.
it. We're going to talk about one of my favorite things in the whole world in here in a minute. How do I, here we go. Oh, there we go. Do we need to do introductions or are we good? I can introduce me if
I
you guys.
think we're good, unless you want to. Go ahead. Maybe there's some new people.
Okay,
Go
I'm
ahead.
Beth Van Boeven. I'm the founder and co-owner of Approved Senior Network, but these ladies are your experts in home care marketing and sales in person. I usually do more of the online stuff, but one of the things that really gets my goat is phone answering. I will talk about
Me
that
too.
today. All right, so I'm gonna keep going here. Whoop, I'm on my laptop instead of my regular desktop. Okay, housekeeping. If you could just mute your lines and listen talking, share stories, experiences, tips. We want to hear from you. And in the chat, Lisa has probably already put in a hi, how are you? Happy Wednesday.
Okay.
We want to hear from you in the chat, or if you want to unmute your line, you can. Make recommendations and tell us what you want to know. If there's something that we haven't covered, and I don't know what that might be, but if there's something we haven't covered, we absolutely will do that.
Yes.
So today's, I think though, this is, let's, you guys talk about the free giveaway.
Okay, I could do it. So
Oh yeah.
once we are going to give away July fund leave behinds. Everybody that's here, if you are interested in receiving the July leave behinds, we will customize them to your agency. Put yes in the chat. You have to promise that you're going to send us pictures when you're out there marketing using them. So put yes in the chat. And at the end of the program, Lisa and I will put everybody's name in a hat and we will pick a winner and I'll give you a
Oh
call.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's a yes.
Awesome. Okay, so let's keep going. Yes, put the yeses in there because we
Yes in the
have
Oh
chat.
yeah.
really good pictures. Okay, so people who are on this call and anybody who watches this as a replay, you could be a salesperson in the field, you could be a marketing person, you could be the owner, you could be co-owner. There's all kinds of positions that y'all are filling, and probably most of you wear many hats, and one of them might be answering the phone still in your own office or some phone setup. So we're going to talk about some strategies and tips for phone answering because I promise you that if you can master how your phone is answered for your home care agency, you will make more money. And isn't that really caring for people is number one? But you got to be able to pay your bills too, right? So the way we answer the phone, honestly, that's a big deal. That is a big deal. And having a well-versed person or people answering those phones, super important. So every call counts, phone etiquette and best practices. I'm going to talk about how turning those phone calls into actual business, how that works. You guys let me know if anybody needs me to stop or ask questions. So we're going to talk about why phone answering matters, the first impression factor. You guys know that Annette, Dawn, and Lisa talk about first impressions all the time. And 90%, in our experience, 90% of the leads that come in for home care agencies are coming in through the phone. Now, their referrals are a big part of that. But if you said to yourself, how many forms are people going to fill out on my website versus how many calls? 10% of people will fill out forms. Usually that's on the weekends or at night. But about 90% of people who are looking for home care are going to, if they have the choice, they're going to make that call. So that's why this is so important. Everyone on your team is a marketer. You are marketing. No matter what your role is and who is listening to this, you are a marketing person you represent your company and you are marketing. Phone etiquette essentials, handling common calls and mistakes to avoid in action steps. A lot of people don't think about this, especially if I'm the owner and I'm the one answering the phone all the time. I don't think about this maybe as much as I should because I'm wearing a lot of hats and I know how to answer the phone. What are you talking about, right? So in home care, a phone call is rarely just a transaction, right? It's a moment of need. Whoever is calling into your home care agency is overwhelmed, they are stressed out, They have no idea what they're talking about. They don't know what they don't know. And they're starting to realize that this healthcare system is crazy and they need some help with their mom or their dad. So they're scared and just maybe dealing with 1,000 other things. So the compassionate and helpful that person who answering the phone really is, the better off. So we're going to talk about that a little bit here. I got to move stuff around a little bit. First impression. So the reality is that you have about 7 seconds of your first interaction with someone to help them feel comfortable and help trust you. 7 seconds. I'm going to give you an example of what bad answering is here that will not win trust. Will not want someone to say, this is the company I want to work with. My mom used to tell me when I was in my late teens and 20s, you talk too fast. You sound like the person taking the orders at the McDonald's drive-thru. And she would get annoyed with me because I talked so fast. She is a slower talker. She's also a baby boomer, but she's a slower talker. Doesn't mean she's dumb. And it doesn't mean she's a very smart woman. She just comes from a time when people really listened to each other. They really talked. And you and your folks are now speaking to a lot of Gen Xers and a lot of boomers who aren't accustomed to as ABC home care thing.
Right.
Can't hear very well first of all. And if you say they don't know what you're saying, they don't know who they called. Here's what I would want to hear. If I were calling a home care agency for my mom right now, ABC Home Care, this is Mary. How can I help you? That is what I want to hear. I want to know who I called, what your name is, and then I want to speak. And I want Mary to listen to me. But that's not what we're always getting. So we're going to talk about some of those things. I just want to give you some clarity on good answering versus not great answering. So what's at stake? If folks on the team are not answering the phone in a clear, well enunciated way, loud enough for someone to hear, you're going to lose the business. A family calling about care for an aging parent is making a huge emotional and financial decision right now. This is life-changing for them. It might not be for you because you do this every day, but for them, this is like, how in the world are we going to do this? How in the world are we going to pay for this? How in the world do we know if the person coming out to the house is trusted? And so if you are cold or rushed or disorganized, or you just put them on hold without saying anything, and I get it, offices are busy, then they will just call the next agency on their list. So you have 7 seconds to make a really good impression over the phone. Trust, reputation, and conversions is what we're talking about. So the warm professional greeting means you're competent. The word of mouth about your business, they may have already read reviews. They may have already talked to someone in the hospital who recommended you or at a skilled nursing facility. And then when you answer that phone, you're going to be more likely to get a conversion if you're doing it right. Everybody in the office, everybody out in the field, every caregiver, every phone answerer, every receptionist, assistant, scheduler, everybody's a marketer, right? If we consider everyone to be a professional representation of our business, and everyone should know how to answer the phone, because so-and-so's busy, so April is going to answer the phone or Mary's going to answer the phone. Everyone needs to do the same thing every time. So if a scheduler sounds frazzled or a care coordinator puts the call on hold and doesn't explain anything, just, oh, hold please, click, done. That's not the way to handle this. Or a caregiver might be there or might answer her phone and the trust is eroded because they're rushed or they don't know, they're not taking the call correctly or whatever. So this is what we call building a phone culture. So if you have a little bit of training, you have a little bit of phone culture, you don't have to go crazy on this, but just giving everybody some skills that they should have in their back pocket anytime they are the person answering the phone is really going to be helpful. The person who always answers the phone, whether that's you or someone else in your office, is the first one that needs to understand everything. But after that, everybody needs to be just have a little in service, have a little luncheon where you talk about phone answering. So the schedulers, we just talked about
Yeah.
the schedulers, definitely your marketer, the care coordinator, the caregiver, and the scheduler who's talking to the caregiver is also the marketer, right? How they're treating that caregiver on the phone, if they're nice, accommodating, and trust me, all of us here in this room know how frustrating and I don't know, just scheduling is the hardest job ever,
Oh, yeah,
right?
it is. It is.
So we all get that. But I've also talked to a million home care agencies, and I can tell that the scheduler who is trained a certain way or has a certain attitude toward caregivers that is positive, encouraging, helpful is going to get a lot more attention, a lot more people to pick up shifts than the one who's mean and negative and jerky and doesn't care. The one who's frustrated and so tired of people calling in. If you change the way you're speaking to people, especially on the phone, that whole mantra of everybody's calling in sick, I don't have anybody to cover a shift, and the whole negativity can shift to a positive. Maybe Mary really likes you, the caregiver Mary. And so when you need to fill a shift, because you have such a great rapport with her, she'll fill in for you or fill in that shift for you. So phone culture is so important, not just from the client's perspective, but also how you treat your caregivers, other staff, everyone. Let me know if I'm moving too fast or
1,000%. 1,000%.
talking too fast.
I'm calling.
And Valerie, you may cover this in the other slides, but making sure somebody answers your phone, because I can't tell you how many agencies I call, it goes to voicemail. And if I was
Yeah.
somebody that was looking for some home care, I would just go to the next one on my list. So try not to let your phone go to voicemail. Somebody needs to answer live.
That's right. And we're going to talk a little, that kind of is a little bit on this slide, but so
Good.
etiquette essentials. And this is something that I learned a long time ago. I don't practice it as much as I should. But if you're smiling, it's really hard to be a jerk on the phone. So answer within 3 rings, use your name and agency name. Hi, this is Valerie, or Approved Senior Network. This is Valerie. How can I help you? Even my cell phone today, if you have my cell phone number and you call me, if you're lucky enough to get me to answer, I'm just kidding. But for me, I don't take all the calls. But when someone calls me and I don't know who they are, but I know it's the plumber and I know I got to answer the call, I say, "This is Valerie. May I help you?" Even if it's my mom, or I don't know it's my mom, but it doesn't matter. I always say who I am and how can I help you? Because it could be a business call coming in. And everybody in my world knows that I answer the phone weird because of that. So please answer within 3 rings, smile. They can hear your smile when you say it with a smile on your face. Your tone and language, clear enunciation, and slow down. Hi, this is Valerie. May I help you? ABC Home Care can I help you? No.
What?
Hi. Slow down. If I'm older and I can't hear well, I have no idea what you just said. And oftentimes, so I'm 55 and I will still say, who did I call? Because I'm not really sure if I called the wrong number at that point because I didn't know what they said. I didn't understand it. They were blah, 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 blah. Yes. And if you do have to use, oh, wait a minute. Phone etiquette. So tone and language, we talked about that. Active listening. All right. This is something I know I've heard Dawn and Annette and Lisa talk about a lot. And that is when they worked in the home care world, they did a lot of listening. So instead of, I'll get me, oh, it's okay. I'll get Mary and she'll talk to you. No, stop. This person probably has told their story 40,000 times. Just listen to them for a minute and then relay some information to the next person who's really going to be the person to take that call. Let them talk. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to change the world if you don't answer or if you're not over here typing in the computer. You just need to listen to them, let them get it off their chest, and let them talk. And then, of course, active listening, don't interrupt, but say something like, it sounds like you're looking for some support for your mom. Let me make sure I understand. And repeat back to them some of the things they just said and make sure that you heard them right. And then after you are sure that's what they're calling about, whatever that issue is, then say, Mary's going to be the best person to handle that. Let me get her for you. Can you hold? Is it okay? Holds and transfers. Again, always ask permission. So for me, when I call the vet, and that's because I have 2 dogs, I've called the vet fairly often, they will always say, Elm Point Animal Hospital, this is Mary. Is this an emergency or can you hold? Now, in their case, sometimes people have dog emergencies or cat emergencies. You probably don't have that, but you can say, there's another call on the line. Can you hold for 1 moment? Ask permission. Of course, hopefully they're going to say, yes, that's okay. And if you're happy and bright about it, then they'll be happy and bright about it. And don't leave them for too long. All right, so let's see. Messages, voicemails, and follow-up. Taking a great message. When you can't connect a caller with the right person, taking a complete and accurate message is critical. So if they just told you their story, write it down or write some semblance of it down, summarize it, and make sure the next person on the list has that summary. Don't just put them into voicemail and tell them they have to tell the whole story again or make them feel like that. Yeah, don't just write called or call Mary 314-495 blah, 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 blah. Put a note for that person as to what's going on. Maybe you have a system that you put notes in, a sticky note, whatever it is. A voicemail greeting should always be professional, but as Annette said, we don't want to use voicemail unless we have to. I know that's hard. I know that when you're a smaller agency and you're wearing all the hats and you're with a client, you can't possibly answer the phone. There are ways. There are cost-effective answering services. There are cost-effective and there are expensive answering services. It depends on what your needs are. But if you can manage to have someone answer the phone live for you, and that is really where it's at. We also come across a lot of clients who have a huge, what do you call it? That you have to press 1, press 2,
Oh, yeah.
press 3. For the blah blah office, press 1. For the blah blah office, press 5. And then they have, for home care, press 1. For hospice care, press 2. Oh my, no.
Or current clients, billing issues, all
Billing
these
issues.
different, yeah. If you're a caregiver.
Okay, so even your caregivers don't want to deal with that. So having an answering service that can ask those questions, listen to those answers, and route the person to the correct line is really where it's at. And if you're smaller, you probably don't have you probably are taking care of all of those things all at one time. But as you grow, having those 1 minute, if I see, we do tracked and recorded lines for some of our clients, and I highly recommend that you do that because you, as the owner, get to listen to those calls and use that as a teaching moment. If you hear calls that sound terrible, then you can not use that as some kind of horrible thing with your staff, but just say, let's talk about how we're answering the phone. Use that as a learning moment. Mr. Ed might have been happier if we had said D as opposed to, we can't do that right now. We'll have to call you back later. What? Even if Ed's a person that's always calling your office for everything, be nice. So use tracked and recorded lines as a learning tool and as a learning experience for yourself and for the people answering your phone. We return calls within 2 business hours. If you're going to say that on a voicemail greeting, if you're going to say that, then you need to honor that promise and make sure you're calling them back. If I call a home care agency on a Saturday, or Sunday, I expect to get an answering machine or a voicemail or an answering service. I get it. It's off time. Or if it's at night, I expect that it might go to voicemail. It's like after 6 o'clock in the evening or something. I get it. But please call me back when you say you're going to call me back. If that's the next morning, that's okay. Designate a specific team member each day as the call champion, responsible for ensuring no inquiry goes unanswered or unacknowledged for more than 2 hours. So if you have someone who's always your call champion, that's fine. But if you have a bigger office and you can share the load a little bit, make sure someone is calling that person back within 2 hours. Call champion, that's a cool name.
It is. And then call champion sometimes needs to take a break. So what we used to do in our office is we have the all hands on deck, like a Slack channel. And okay, I've got to go to lunch now. So who's taking this? And it might be even pre-scheduled, but if you needed to use the restroom or if there's something came up where you needed someone else to help you, all hands on deck, someone needs to take the calls, incoming intakes, and we all would pitch in.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. It's great to be able to share the load for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I was going to add, Valerie, so we always had a live person on call. And if it was an evening or a weekend, if somebody called for services and they could wait till the next morning, that's fine. But sometimes they call, I need something right away. Whoever was on call was trained to call one of us in the office. Hey, we just got an inquiry. This person really wants somebody to come out tomorrow to see their mom. So we would call people on weekends. And
Yes.
if it was anytime we got an inquiry, rarely, unless they said, oh, it's fine, call me tomorrow. But there was always somebody in our office that was designated to make sure we call people whenever they call.
Yeah. I want to add to that too. So we had the same situation where we were answering live on the weekends. We were even starting cases on the weekends. We were picking up, transporting from hospital to home on the weekends. It didn't matter. So we had a scheduler and a client care type person that would double a little bit in the marketing section, but mostly client care, pop-ins, all those things need to happen on the weekends just as much as they do on the weekdays. So yeah, we did too. We answered our calls live.
Yeah. And do a little, if you are an agency where other people besides yourself are answering the phone, do a little mystery shopping. Call in from a different phone number and see how that phone's being answered. That is always a great way to find out what's going on, what people know, if they're listening, because most of the calls that come in are going to be pretty much the same. There's just a few different issues. It's either a caregiver, a current client, or someone who needs care, or maybe a referral source. So you know what everyone should have an answer or have a at least a routine with each of those types of callers. But making the caller feel heard, valued, and making sure and letting them know they've reached the right place is really important. They're so overwhelmed, and it's probably a crisis in their mind, whatever's going on. So the
Right.
call types are going to be family inquiries, referral partners, caregiver calls, and current client concerns. All of them really need the same amount of attention and listening skills and slowing down and speaking to them and listening to whatever it is they need. Common mistakes, missing calls, means missing a client. So anytime you can have somebody actually live answer, that's really the way to go. Families in need are rarely call back. I can remember setting up home care for my husband's mom when she started to need a little extra help around the house. And I called 2 agencies on a Saturday. And the first one that called me back was the one that got our business. One called me back that day, one waited until Monday.
Wow.
Called me back on Saturday, got our business because I got it. I knew that it was a weekend. I didn't expect anything crazy, but just because that person called me back on a Saturday and cared enough to get the information right then, that was all I needed to know. This was important to them, just as important to them as it was to me. Rushed conversations, hurried, distracted. We all feel that way sometimes. They're going to feel like a burden, and you want them to be that priority. So slow down, be present for whoever that person is, and then poor follow-up. Now, I always talk about, for a long time, I've talked about follow-up failure. And that could be follow-up failure with referral sources, follow-up failure with potential clients, with colleagues. If you tell somebody you're going to call them back or you mean to call them back, put it in the CRM, make a note, whatever makes you do that thing, put it in your calendar, call so-and-so back today. Whatever that is, please do it. Our clients have access to a CRM that can automatically text, it can automatically email, it can automatically do a lot of things for you if you want that set up so that you're not missing that follow-up opportunity. And then end the call with clarity. I know there are lots of sales trainers out there who teach book a meeting from a meeting, book a meeting from a meeting. And that can mean a lot of things, but if you're on a call and you know that and the call's about to end, make sure that the next steps are outlined for that human person and for yourself. When we hang up today, I'm going to go ahead and talk to Mary, our care coordinator. She's going to call you back and make an appointment to come out to the house and talk to you a little bit more. Blah, 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 blah. Tell them what is going to happen next. Don't leave them out in space. We'll call you back and let you know what's happening. No, tell me who's going to call me next. Tell me who's going to come out to the house. Tell me, just give me some idea of what is happening. That's good communication. That's what that is. And it will help them be less anxious. The real cost of bad call experiences. 80% of callers will not leave a voicemail without an expected timely callback. I think 80% of callers just hang up. If they really need something, they're not going to leave a voicemail. They're going to call the next agency.
Yeah.
First agency to answer wins the inquiry, or the first agency to call them back. Like in my case, whoever took the time on a Saturday, it was that important to them to get the business. Of course, I'm in this business, right? So I knew that was a good sign. So that was the person who got it. Yeah. And think about it this way. Every person who calls in, who's a potential client, an adult child with a senior in their life that needs care, that is months of recurring revenue on the end of that phone line. It's not just losing a client. It's not just one thing. It's months and months of revenue. If you know what your lifetime value of a client is, it $10,000? Is it $20,000 usually? If you know what that is, and someone was just rushed or rude or just put somebody on hold without, if they're not taking care of them from the moment they answer the phone, you've just lost that $10,000, $20,000 potentially.
That's a good way to put it.
So think about it that way. Months of recurring revenue is lost if you have people answering your phone in not a great way. So every call is an expression of your agency's values and a chance to build lasting trust from the very first hello. Building a stronger phone culture inside your agency. A great phone culture doesn't happen by accident, it's built. So have a meeting, have a sit down, talk to everybody about every call being important. A caregiver calling in is just as important as a client who is, or a potential client, a referral source. Everybody's important on the end of that phone line. So do some mystery calling, or ask somebody in your family, ask a husband, a wife, a sister, a brother to call in and talk to your home care agency about someone potentially needing care and see how that goes. Let them report back to you from a novice, from someone who's not in the industry. How did that go? How did it sound to you? Were they rushed? Audit your greeting, call your own agency right now. What did you hear? And then do some role play. If folks are having some challenges with answering calls, let's sit down and do it together. Let's talk about the challenging calls that come in and better ways to respond. If you don't practice, that person's not going to have a solution the next time that happens. Create a follow-up system, whether you have a call log or a CRM. I also encourage everyone to have a checklist next to the phone on a pad of paper or whatever it is, and ask the right questions, get the right information, name, phone number, email address. How did you hear about us? How old is your mom or dad? You can ask some simple questions and have a lot of great data to share with the next person in line who's really going to be taking that call. Celebrate great calls. So when a team member handles something really nicely, recognize it, talk about it, and have a party. Remember that small, consistent improvements, they add up over time. You don't need to change everything, but pick one action step and start today. I can tell you that long time ago, we do not listen to phone calls because I feel like it's a HIPAA violation for us to do that. And it may or may not be, it's a gray area. But when clients of ours have tracked and recorded phone lines through us, we do not listen to calls. But back in the day, a long time ago, when we first started doing that, we listened to the calls with our clients. We would have a meeting and let's say, let's see how things are going. And we'd play some of those calls. And it was horrifying what was happening on the other end of those lines. And they had no idea that people were getting served. It was just a litany of stuff. People getting served divorce papers at work. People someone was calling to say, this is from the sheriff's office. Somebody who's been arrested. They had people answering the phones who, they had, and I have college age children. They're 19 years old, and I get it. They need a summer job. But putting my 19-year-old on the phone at my home care agency without training, any one of them could do it if I practiced with them a few times. But without any training, is it hello? Hello? What? Hello? Who is this? Who did I just call?
Yeah.
A little bit of training, but I do think that someone with a little bit of life experience behind them as a full-time person who's an admin or answering the phone is really good because they get it. They talk slower. They listen longer. They're okay with being compassionate and caring on the phone. Whereas someone who's young may be a little bit too fast. They may not have as much life experience. They may not understand the gravity of the situation as well. Those kinds of things. So pick and choose who's answering your phone, but by all means, train everyone. Okay. Me. The phone is your front door. Every call is a chance to build or break trust, treat it accordingly. And we've talked about this, every team member is a marketer. Etiquette is empathy in action. Having good etiquette on the phone, it means that you care. It shows that you are compassionate, but you are also caring about how you are coming off to the person who called. Good etiquette is never going to hurt. It's always going to be on your side. And then systems beat good intentions. So having those follow-up notifications in your CRM or call logs or a checklist by the phone, whatever that is important. But if you're doing a checklist by the phone, make sure someone's entering that data. Now, today, I imagine that when people answer the phone, they have a computer screen in front of them and they are taking down that information right there on that computer screen. That's what I imagine. Not all the time. Not for every agency, but that's probably how that works most of the time. And making sure that checklist is there is still really a good idea. So
Yeah.
anybody have any questions, any experiences? I can tell you a couple of crazy stories if you want to hear them.
We have a comment from Carmel. She said, "Can't stop laughing, Valerie. That is exactly how my 19-year-old nephew answers his cell phone." Or they don't answer. My kids don't answer the phone.
Oh, no. Yeah, no. Hello. If I called your agency and you said, hello, that happens all the time. One time I was listening to calls with a client and we just did it as a courtesy. It wasn't like it was mandatory or anything, but we were just going through calls and he said, click on that one. And I clicked on it and he said, hello. He was sound asleep when he answered the phone. And he's, wait a minute, who's this? And it was the guy that was with me, listening with me on the phone. It was his agency. He's the one that answered the phone.
No.
He was so embarrassed. I said, I'm so sorry. You wanted me to click on this one. So and I guarantee you that never happened again. He was so mortified by how he answered the phone. He didn't realize that it was what was happening and he was asleep. I don't know. Anyway, oh my gosh.
He was probably on call or something, and which is a risk you take when people have worked all day and that's their on-call day as well.
Okay, I got one more weird story for you.
Tell us.
Oh, this is just craziness. All right. So we have clients all over the country. A lot of them have the tracked and recorded lines. We were listening with them to different calls that were coming in to try and educate and all that. And this one guy, I noticed as I was listening to calls that this one number kept calling multiple of our home care agencies. It was the same phone number over and over again. And it took me a while to catch on. And so I started listening to a couple of the calls. Oh, this guy was psycho. And he was calling home care agencies all over the country and acting like he was inquiring for services for himself. And usually it was some nice young girl who answered the phone and she was being very pleasant. And he would start asking weirder questions and weirder questions.
Oh my gosh.
And at the end, he would say, I need somebody to come over and change my diaper like 3 times a day, or I don't know, something
Oh
weird.
my gosh.
I was like, oh. And so eventually the poor soul who's at the home care agency would catch on and be like, oh my God, and they would just hang up. But I was like, this guy calls everybody all over the
Wow.
country and asks them if they'll change his diaper. He didn't live in the area where this home care agency serviced. Oh my gosh. It was like
Crazy.
10 or 11 of these calls. So anyway, that's really not on.
That's horrible.
I caught a serial weirdo.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
You should
That
report
is
him.
weird. He was recorded all the time doing this, and then it
That's
stopped.
horrible.
Oh my goodness. But if that guy calls you, he's a serial caller.
Correct him and say it's an adult brief.
So anyway, but yeah, so I would just say this, that any improvements you can make on how your phones are answered, what you say when you answer the phone, clarity, slow, all those things matter so much to these families that are in crisis. They feel like the world's coming in on them or their parent, and they just need a good listener. So that's
I'll
me.
say too that if you are sitting at a desk, if you have folks that are sitting at a desk, what we always did is we said, okay, you have your checklist, like you talked about. We also had a priority call list. So if it did happen to go to voicemail because for whatever reasons you're on the other line, or maybe you're the only person that's on call that weekend or what have you. And then we had a list on who you have to call back within a certain amount of time. What type of call was it? APS, you're calling within an hour, things like that. A payroll question, maybe an hour because it's a caregiver and they're going to get really upset. By the end of the day, maybe it's a billing issue. But then you have to also let those people know that these things are happening. We're going to give you a call back at this time to go over it, or we're going to call you back and we'll get you to the right person on Monday or something like that. But one of the things we also did besides the checklist and the priority list is we had a mirror next to our desk. You guys have probably all heard this, but a mirror so you could look at yourself and say, do I look like I'm happy? Do I look like I would be a person that we'd want to talk to on the other line? And so I think that
Good one.
helps some people too.
Love it.
And not everybody's at the desk. So a lot of how we were, I'm driving, I've got my GPS, I've got Google Ads calling in. You're trying to balance all that. You've got to pull over. So you have to try to make your office, your car, a quiet office too. So that's a challenge.
Sometimes your car is the only place you can answer the phone where it's quiet. That's why people record videos in their cars. I'm starting to realize that's because it's the only place where they get privacy and quiet for 5 minutes. So
That's where I eat my Dubai chocolates in the car. Kids.
Yummy.
all right. So
Okay.
do we want to talk about sales training coming up before we do handouts? I think I
Sure.
mixed.
Before we do the leave behinds, I see a bunch of people here on the call that are in our sales training.
Hey.
We have summer is here and we have classes in June, July. I'm going to be starting to add some August, but we do have availability. So if you're interested, let us know. It's a 12-week, once a week, an hour via Zoom sales training class. We tell you everything you need to know, what to say, what to do. We make customized leave behinds, how to get those private pay referrals. So if anybody's interested, let us know. I will get that information to you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Have a
All right,
good
take care.
Everybody.
See you next time.
Bye.
Take care.